a man do something that very few people have ever had the opportunity to do. Go against 3 world heavyweight champions. Jerry Lawler against Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr., and Harley Race, the current world heavyweight champion. No question about it, a talented man in the wrestling ring. But he has talent otherwise. Additionally, he has a mouth that stirs controversy, and just for the sake of today, Jerry the King Lawler, how about let's just have a nice conversation and let the folks get a chance to see in some of the sides of Lawler.
In other words, what you're trying to tell me is you want me to refer to you instead of old Banana Nose as Lance Russell, is that right?
That would be nice.
Okay.
That would be nice.
I'll try. I am probably the best wrestler in the world today, and I anticipate having a very long and successful career. But I do a lot of artwork in my spare time, and I enjoy doing the artwork. And
today's report begins a 2-part series on a certain wrestler who just happens to be a Memphian.
Cadillac Man 69.
They call him the King of Memphis. His name is Jerry Lawler, and he makes his living as a professional wrestler. But Jerry Lawler is also an artist. In fact, he attended Memphis State for 2 years on an art scholarship. He also sings. It's his voice you hear on this record, Cadillac Man, which was produced on his own label, appropriately called Barbarian Records. Jerry Lawler is just 25 years old, but he's got a lot going for him right now. He's the #1 attraction of professional wrestling in Memphis. In fact, he broke Elvis Presley's consecutive sellout record at the Mid-South Coliseum. He has a showing of his drawings and paintings in a Midtown art gallery, which has attracted constant attention ever since it opened. In fact, while Channel 5 was at the gallery to interview the King, a high school art teacher came in with her class. She explained she was having a hard time making her students take art seriously, and she thought it might influence them if they saw someone like Jerry Lawler taking art seriously. Jerry does take his art seriously. Most of the drawings in the show are in the medium of comic book art, which is a recognized art form. Some, however, are of a more serious nature. As I said, Jerry Lawler has a lot going for him, and he's enjoying every bit of it.
I don't think anybody, when they were younger, could comprehend something like this happening. I'll be honest with you, no, I didn't think all this would happen, and I still don't believe some of it.
Well, what about the art? If you've made a name for yourself as a professional wrestler, and now you're an artist, do you expect people to take it seriously?
Well, I think if they see my work, they'll take it seriously. I've been interested in art a lot longer than I've been interested in wrestling. Really, I've been able to draw. I remember drawing ever since I was 5 years old, and I majored in it in high school, and then I won a commercial art scholarship to Memphis State. And I think, like I said, if they see my work, they'll realize that I'm serious. It all works together. The definition of an artist is a person that has extraordinary coordination between their eyes and their hands. In other words, this pair of sunglasses, when you look at it and I look at it, we see the same pair of sunglasses. But when we try to transfer what we see, my hands can draw exactly what I see, where your hands can't.
That's true.
See, that's the definition of an artist, and this same coordination comes out in my wrestling. It also makes me an extraordinary wrestler because I have better coordination than the average wrestler.
We are well aware of the fact that the Lawler ego is legend. You want people to recognize you and know you, and yet the recognition that you get from people is by and large a matter of dislike, of hate in some instances, and there has got to be something in your own mental makeup that brings you to the style of wrestling that you have.
Well, you know, some people call me an egotist, but what I really am is a realist. You see, I recognize the situation as it really is. I realize that people, the majority of people, don't like me. But the reason for this is almost everybody is jealous of perfection. And when it comes to wrestling, I am perfection. That's what it boils down to. That's why the other wrestlers don't like me. That's why the majority of the fans don't like me.
I remember in the early days of your wrestling when you first started, not too successfully, I might add, but I did at least announce Jerry Lawler as the All-American boy. He had the ability to get in there and obey the rules, and he wrestled the way we classically think of wrestling should be done. You disappeared. You went to, I don't know, Georgia, Florida, or somewhere like that. The next time I saw you, about a year later, you came back, and when I said the All-American boy Jerry Lawler is on the card today, you made a complete liar, and it was the beginning of the Jerry Lawler that we know today.
Well, you forgot to add one thing when you went over the first terminology there. You said he was the all-around All-American boy and the classic wrestler and wrestled the way people like to see me wrestle, but you also forgot to add that I lost every match you saw me wrestle. Is that right?
You did, in fact, lose all the matches I got.
Well, that's exactly right. So it took me a while, but I finally realized that the combination it takes to become a winner is natural ability combined with confidence. And I already had the natural ability, but what I lacked was the confidence. So like you said, I went away and I realized that I didn't have to wrestle the way traditionally people should wrestle. You know, I found out that it didn't make any difference to me whether the people cheered for me or whether they booed. All I wanted to do was win. And so I won my first match, and maybe I didn't do it by obeying all the rules. But after I won that match, after I won another few matches, it built that confidence in me. Something that like I said, when combined with ability, makes a person a winner. And I would have thought that after 40 years, you would have acquired that confidence by now in announcing. But anyway, everybody doesn't catch on to what it takes to become a winner. I was one of the fortunate ones who did. And like I said, there are a lot of guys that have been around for 10, 15 years, and I think winning has become secondary to them. They want to go out there and they want to hear those little girls scream for them. They want to hear the crowd hollering their name. But like I said, that's not important to me. The bill collectors, when they come around and want their money, they don't ask me whether I won or lost. They just want that money. The winner makes more than the loser, and I'm always going to be the winner.
I am sure that it doesn't really mean a hill of beans to you, but a lot of people have made the comment that Jerry Lawler, in his wrestling career, will do anything as long as the big money is there.
Well, that's exactly right. You have to do that. Winning at all costs. That's the name of the game for me. Like I said, when somebody wants your money, they don't care. They don't care if you obey the rules or if you don't. They just care if you got the money. And to have that money, you got to win.
One of the things that has earmarked the career and the rise to success as a wrestler of Jerry Lawler is that tremendous ability to take punishment. And I don't care what you say, I have seen guys who have had you in plenty of trouble, and you have been able to withstand it in many cases and be able to survive and win the bout. This is something that comes from conditioning or natural gift or what?
Well, a lot of times, Lance, see, a lot of times I got you fooled. A lot of these clowns don't hurt me as bad as you think they do. It's hard for a wrestler to hurt me. I'm a hard man to hurt, you know. A long time ago, I learned that I had to get rid of the word pain out of my vocabulary. I don't even know the meaning of the word anymore. And along with being a great artist and a great wrestler, I'm also sometimes a great illusionist. I like to make my opponent think he's got me hurt. I like to see him build his confidence up, make him think he's in control of the match, and then when the right moment comes, when he lets his guard down, bang, that's when I got him.
I have seen you, and Dave Brown and I have both mentioned during your matches that you have that ability to control the pace of a match, which will sometimes upset the rhythm of another wrestler in there. Speaking of other wrestlers, and I know it's a classic question, but I've got to ask it, who's the toughest wrestler that you've ever been in? We saw you a little earlier against 3 world heavyweight champions, Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr., and Harley Race. Who's the toughest wrestler you ever wrestled?
Well, boy, that takes some thinking. I don't know. It's a combination. The toughest wrestler, the hardest match I ever wrestled, I could say, like you say, I've wrestled Jack Briscoe. Yeah. I've wrestled all the former champions, Terry Funk, Harley Race.
60-minute draw with Terry Funk as the world
That was a hard match. But I tell you, you know, it goes back to, like, if you were to ask Muhammad Ali who is probably the greatest boxer in the world today, a classic boxer, you know, does all the beautiful moves. Who his toughest opponent was, he'd have to say Joe Frazier, because there's a man who is not a great boxer, not a classic boxer. He just keeps coming because he's full of guts. Keeps coming, and you can hit him all day and you can pound him, but you just can't stop him. And there's one man that I've wrestled that was just like that, and it may surprise you, but his name is Bill Dundee. He's
a little surprised me that you would say that.
Well, like you said, we're having a conversation here today, and fact is fact. He's a little man that when I first thought about him, I said, here's a guy half my size, and I'm going to be able to beat him without any difficulty at all. But the little sucker just keeps coming. I mean, I don't know if it's hard to guts or what, but he's a hard man to put down. He keeps coming just like Joe Frazier keeps coming. He's another man that's hard to hurt.
How about that? You know, you've, in addition to all of the other activities that you had, you've been involved with some screwy things. Some screwy things, like, for instance, mud wrestling.
Well, what's screwy about mud wrestling?
Let's look.
It's called mud wrestling, a form of entertainment that many say is a new version of mud slinging. Regardless of what you call it, why would anyone want to be a mud wrestler?
Well, I do it because it's fun competing against other girls that are as stout as I am.
Tell me about how it feels like when you're around there waddling in the mud.
Feels like mud. Feels like you just get a free mud bath, you know. It's real thick, and you get it in your face, you choke pretty good. I mean, I've seen girls get out there and choke in it.
You enjoy doing it?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fun. I think that this kind of competition is really good for a girl because there's not really anything that a girl can compete against really struggling except for this right here. I think it's really nice.
Mud wrestling is really catching on around the country. The girls who participate say that it's an easy way to earn some extra money. The winner of each match will earn $100. Not bad for just a few minutes' work. This is Myron Lawler reporting.
Sometimes play, the girls decide to get the referee right into the act, as they did right here with Jerry Lawler, and put him right down in the mud. Or even Jerry Lawler, the one getting everybody. The girls got him this time. And all of those people out there watching have to admit that this has truly been television's finest hour, an hour spent with the king, seeing him up close. It's been great. It's been fantastic. And I also want to say that I've got one thing, one goal in mind. You know, I'm only 27 years old, and everybody knows that after you get past 30, you're over the hill in professional wrestling. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I am 27 years old, and I am right today the greatest athlete in the world, the greatest athlete in the world. It's not Bruce Jenner. It's not O.J. Simpson. It's not Frazier. It's not Ali. It's me, Jerry Lawler.